I flew across the country for my dad's birthday, only to be told I wasn't invited, so I cashed out on my entire family. 3 days later, I woke up to 53 missed calls. You know how they say family is forever? Yeah, turns out family is forever, until you're 2,000 miles away with a bank account they need. Buckle up, bros. This is going to be a wild ride. So I, 28 male, have been helping my old man financially for about 6+ years now. Not because I'm some pushover, but because we actually had a decent relationship back then. He worked his ass off raising me after mom split when I was 12, picked up extra shifts, never missed my games, the whole deal. When I landed my first solid job after college, I took an opportunity with a tech company in Boston, about 2,500 miles from my hometown in Arizona. The money was insane compared to local options, and Dad was actually the one who pushed me to take it. "Don't worry about me. Go make something of yourself," he said. So I did. It started with reasonable stuff. His truck needed repairs, and he was between jobs. The medical bills after his knee surgery when his insurance didn't cover everything. That kind of thing. He was always super grateful, promised to pay me back, though we both knew that wasn't really the point, and never made it weird. I remember the first time I helped him out. His ancient Ford F-150, the same one he'd taught me to drive in, had finally given up the ghost. Transmission was shot, and the quote from the mechanic might as well have been written in another language based on how pale he got looking at it. $2,800. For a guy who was working construction between more stable gigs, it might as well have been $28,000. "I'll figure something out," he told me over the phone, that stubborn pride in his voice. "Maybe my buddy can give me rides to work for a while until I save up." His buddy, who lived 30 minutes in the opposite direction. The math didn't math. So I called the mechanic myself from my apartment in Boston, put it on my credit card, and texted Dad. "Truck will be ready Thursday. Consider it payback for all those 5 a.m. hockey practices you drove me to." When I flew home for Christmas that year and saw him, he actually had tears in his eyes. Hugged me tight, promised he'd pay me back every cent. I told him not to worry about it. The look on his face was payment enough. For the first few years, this arrangement worked fine. I was making good money at my tech job in Boston. He was there for me with phone calls of advice and support, and it felt like we had a solid father-son thing going despite the distance. I even helped him with the down payment on his house because, honestly, I was proud to be in a position where I could do that. He'd spent decades in a crappy apartment so I could have what I needed growing up. I'd fly home for major holidays and occasionally a long weekend, and those visits actually meant something. The house wasn't anything fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom ranch style in a decent neighborhood. But man, you'd have thought I'd bought him a mansion from how excited he was. He kept sending me pictures of each room as he fixed it up. "Finally have a proper garage," he texted with a picture of his tools all organized on the wall. I flew home every few months when I could. We'd grill in the backyard, watch the game, and he'd show me his latest home improvement project. He'd always pick me up from the airport himself, no matter what time my flight landed. Those were good times. Real good times. Then he met her, the stepmom. Look, I tried to like her. Really did. She seemed nice enough at first, but it became clear pretty fast that her lifestyle expectations were, let's just say, ambitious. Suddenly, Dad was talking about renovations and vacations and upgrading everything from his wardrobe to his car. She was about 5 years younger than him, with the bleached blonde hair and the too loud laugh, always dressed like she was heading to a fancy brunch, even when we were just hanging out at the house. Within 3 months of dating, she'd convinced Dad that the kitchen absolutely needed new granite countertops. The perfectly functional counters that had been there since he bought the place? Outdated, apparently. And somehow I kept getting looped into funding these essential improvements. The occasional help gradually turned into regular financial support. Dad started calling more often, but our conversations got shorter unless they involved money. Still, I kept helping because I'd convinced myself it was just a rough patch. The calls changed too. It used to be, "Hey son, how's that project going at work?" Or, "Did you catch the game last night?" Now it was, "Hey bud, got a minute?" Which was code for, "I need something." Then there's my brother. We've never been particularly close, but we were always civil. He moved back in with Dad after dropping out of college, supposedly to find himself, which apparently involved a lot of gaming and very little job hunting. Whenever I'd visit, he'd make these little comments about how lucky I was to have a good job, like my degree and 60-hour work weeks had nothing to do with it. My brother is 2 years younger than me. Where I took after Dad, practical, hardworking, likes sports, he was always more like Mom, artistic, restless, convinced he was meant for something special. Maybe that's why Dad always cut him more slack. But while I was working my way through college with student loans and part-time jobs, He was partying his way through his freshman year on Dad's dime. When he dropped out, claiming college was too restrictive for his creative process, I bit my tongue. My brother's creative process mostly seemed to involve playing League of Legends until 4 a.m. and sleeping until noon. When I'd visit, he'd barely acknowledge me, except to ask if I could spot him some cash until his next gigs that mysteriously never materialized. The real shift happened gradually. The grateful "thanks, son, I don't know what I'd do without you" became "we were counting on this." The occasional request became monthly expectations. The appreciation faded, replaced by a weird sense of entitlement to my money. Like the time I flew home for Thanksgiving and noticed Dad's new 75-inch smart TV mounted on the wall. "Nice upgrade," I said, remembering the 55-inch I'd helped him pick out during my last visit. "Patricia found it on sale," he shrugged. "Been meaning to tell you the property taxes went up this year. Gonna be about $1,500 more than we thought." No connection between the two expenditures seemed to register with him. And weirdly, for the first time ever, Dad didn't pick me up from the airport that trip, said his knee was acting up. Yet there he was, perfectly mobile, showing off how he'd mounted the TV himself. But I still wasn't seeing the full picture. Family loyalty is a hell of a drug. Anyways, 2 months ago, Dad called about his upcoming 65th birthday. "Milestone birthday," he said. "Time to celebrate," he said. "I've been thinking about doing something special," he told me, sounding genuinely excited for the first time in months. Nothing crazy, just family and close friends at the Grand Hotel downtown. I was actually happy to hear him sounding like his old self. That Grand Hotel isn't cheap. We're talking at least $250 per head for a private event. But if it meant seeing Dad enjoying himself like he used to, it seemed worth it. "Send me the details," I said. "I'd love to help make it happen." He practically gushed with gratitude. Started talking about how meaningful it would be to have everyone together, how he couldn't wait to catch up with me properly, how this would be the start of a better year. "It's been too long since we really talked," he said, and for the first time in ages, he sounded like my dad again, the one who used to call just to check in, not to ask for something. "I miss that," he said. I missed it too. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. Over the next few weeks, I transferred enough to cover the venue, a cool $12,000, helped pick menu options over the phone, even gave input on the music selection. Dad kept me in the loop about everything. Who was coming, the schedule, all of it. "Aunt S is flying in from Phoenix," he texted one day. "Uncle R and his new wife are coming too. Family I hadn't seen in years." This was shaping up to be quite the event. "This is going to be great," he texted. "Everyone's excited." I should have noticed he never actually said, "I'm excited to see you there." But I was busy at work, and it felt good to be involved in something that seemed to make him happy. For a minute there, it felt like we were rebuilding our relationship. I didn't receive a formal invitation, but why would I? I was helping plan the damn thing. Of course I'd be there. I booked a cross-country flight, took 3 days off work, and reserved a hotel room near the venue. The day before, I texted him to confirm the time as I was packing my suitcase, and he responded with "doors open at 7, dinner at 8. No mention of meeting up beforehand, offering to pick me up from the airport or anything, but I didn't think much of it. I even bought a new suit for the occasion, charcoal gray Tom Ford that set me back nearly $2,000. I'm not usually a brand guy, but this was a special occasion. First time I'd be seeing some extended family in years, and after a 5-hour flight, I wanted to at least look good while fighting the jet lag. Wanted to make a good impression. The morning of the big day, I sent a quick, "looking forward to tonight" text. No response, but Dad was probably busy with last-minute preparations. I got a haircut, picked up my freshly tailored suit, even splurged on some fancy cologne. This was going to be the reset our relationship needed. My flight landed at 4:30, giving me just enough time to grab my rental car, check into the hotel, shower off the airplane grime, and get dressed. Driving through my old hometown felt strange. I'd flown 2,500 miles for this. Spent a small fortune on airfare, hotel, car rental, and that suit. But it would all be worth it to finally reconnect with Dad and the extended family I rarely saw anymore. I showed up to the hotel right at 7, looking sharp and feeling pretty good. The place looked amazing. Elegant decorations, professional staff, open bar. Exactly what you'd expect for the price tag. The Grand Hotel is the fanciest place in our city. Old school luxury with modern touches. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, staff who somehow always know exactly when you need something. The kind of place where even the bathroom attendant looks like he makes more than you do. Walking through that lobby, I felt a twinge of pride. Dad deserved a nice celebration, and I was glad I could help make it happen. I was looking forward to finally having some quality time with him after months of mostly financial conversations. What I wasn't expecting was the woman with the clipboard at the entrance to the ballroom. Name? She asked with professional courtesy. I gave her my name and mentioned I was the birthday man's son. She scanned her list, flipped to another page, then looked up with that practiced customer service smile. I'm sorry, sir. I don't see your name on the guest list. I laughed, assuming there had been some kind of clerical error. There must be a mistake. I helped organize this whole event. Let me double check with the event coordinator, she said, stepping away to speak into her headset. I stood there, not particularly worried yet, watching guests stream past me into the ballroom. I recognized family friends, cousins I hadn't seen in years, even Dad's old bowling buddies. My cousin Trent nodded as he walked by with his wife. Nice suit, man, he said, giving me a fist bump before heading in. Then a staff member approached. Are you with one of the vendors? Checking on the catering, perhaps? No, I said, still calm. I'm his son. I actually helped plan this whole thing. Oh, he said, looking uncomfortable. Just a moment. As I waited, I texted Dad. I'm at the door, but there seems to be an issue with the guest list. No response. 5 minutes passed. 10. Through the open doors, I could see the party in full swing. The room looked amazing, and everyone seemed to be having a great time, laughing and catching up. Finally, Dad appeared with my brother trailing behind him. Dad was wearing a new suit I'd never seen, and my brother had that smug look he gets when he thinks he's about to witness some drama. Hey, Dad said, with none of the warmth I'd expected. Didn't think you'd actually show up? I blinked, confused. What? I helped plan this whole thing. Of course I'm here. Dad glanced around, lowering his voice. Look, we decided to keep tonight small. Family only. The words hit like a slap. I am family, I said, keeping my voice level. What are you talking about? You know what he means, my brother chimed in. Real family. The ones who are actually here for him. Not just sending money from across the country and showing up twice a year. Jake was wearing what looked like a new dress shirt and designer jeans, probably paid for with the money I'd sent Dad last month for the urgent plumbing issue. I looked between them, reality slowly dawning. Are you serious right now? I paid for this entire event. The venue, the food, everything. Dad had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. And we appreciate that. But tonight's about celebrating without any complications. Complications, I repeated. That's what I am now? Dad sighed like I was being difficult. You know things have been strained. We thought it would be better this way. Less awkward for everyone. One of the waitstaff was hovering nearby, clearly pretending not to listen while catching every word. Young guy, probably college age, straightening already perfect place settings at the table closest to us. And standing just inside the doorway, watching this whole interaction, was my stepmom. She was decked out in what had to be a brand new outfit, complete with jewelry that definitely wasn't from a department store. When she caught my eye, she quickly turned away, pretending to be fascinated by a conversation with my aunt. I took a deep breath. Getting angry wouldn't accomplish anything, but I wasn't about to slink away either. Not after flying across the country, not after funding this entire charade. You know what? I said calmly. I think I'll stay. Dad's eyes widened slightly. Look, son. No, you look, I said, keeping my voice steady but firm. I flew 2,500 miles to be here. I paid $12,000 for this venue. I'm going in. My brother stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. Dad said, I don't care what Dad said, I replied, not backing down. I care what I did, which was make this entire night possible. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Want to see the transfer? Want to call the event manager over and ask who paid the deposit? Because I'm happy to clear that up right now. My brother scoffed. Always about money with you, isn't it? I couldn't help but laugh at the sheer audacity. That's rich coming from the guy who hasn't paid his own phone bill in 3 years. Tell me, how's that creative process going? Reached level 100 in League yet? He flushed red, but didn't have a comeback. Funny how people who leech off others never seem to have a good defense when called out directly. Dad tried another approach. Son, please, it's my birthday. Oh, I'm well aware, I cut in. I have the credit card statement to prove it, along with statements for the last 6 birthdays, Christmases, and that time you absolutely needed a new fishing boat, because, and I quote, it would help with your depression. How's that working out, by the way? Because from where I'm standing, seems like the only thing that was depressed was my bank account. The waiter who'd been pretending not to listen was now openly watching, a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. I caught his eye. Excuse me, I said. Could you please tell my aunt, the one talking to that blonde with more filler than personality, that her nephew would like to speak with her outside? Just say it's about a surprise for my dad. My aunt's always had a soft spot for me, that's why I called her. My pleasure, sir, he replied with a knowing look that suggested he'd worked enough family events to recognize drama when he saw it. What are you doing? Dad hissed. Getting back up, I said simply. Or did you think I was going to just hand over 12 grand and slink back to Boston without even getting a slice of cake? That's not how investments work, Dad. Even bad ones. My stepmom had noticed the commotion and was watching nervously from inside, clutching her designer purse like I might try to repossess it. Not a bad idea, actually, considering I probably paid for it. You're making a scene, my brother muttered. No, I'm standing in a hallway having a conversation, I replied. A scene would be me walking in there and announcing to everyone that the open bar they're enjoying was courtesy of the son who wasn't good enough to invite. But don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I paused. Yet. My aunt appeared moments later, face lighting up when she saw me. There you are. We were wondering when you'd arrive. She hugged me tightly, then looked confused at the tension in the air. What's going on? Apparently I'm not on the guest list, I said calmly, for the party I paid for. Her smile fell. What? Dad was just explaining how I'm not real family because I live in Boston. You know, the job I took so I could afford to fund his retirement and my brother's gaming addiction. My aunt's eyes narrowed as she looked between Dad and me. Is this true? She asked him. Dad looked trapped. It's complicated. It's really not, I interrupted. Either I'm welcome at a party I organized and funded, or I'm not. And if I'm not, I think everyone inside should know exactly what kind of celebration they're enjoying. I'm thinking a toast would be appropriate, don't you? Dad blanched. He knew I had receipts, literal and figurative. You wouldn't, my brother said, but he sounded uncertain. Try me, I replied. I've got nothing to lose at this point. You guys made sure of that when you decided I wasn't family enough to attend, but was definitely family enough to foot the bill. Kind of like how I wasn't family enough to be invited to Thanksgiving last year, but was family enough to pay for stepmom's emergency root canal the next week. Funny how that works. My aunt looked stunned. Of course you're welcome. This is ridiculous. She linked her arm through mine. You're coming in with me, right now. Aunt, maybe we should discuss this privately, my brother started. Oh, I think we're done discussing, she cut in with a tone that brooked no argument. My aunt had always been a force of nature. Your brother flew across the country and paid for this entire event. He's coming in. My brother started to protest, but Dad cut him off with a look. He knew when he was cornered. Fine, he muttered. But don't make a scene. I'm not the one who created this scene, I replied, walking past him with my aunt. I'm just the one who refused to be the punchline. As we entered, I saw several heads turn. The whispers started immediately. My stepmom's face fell when she realized I was coming in. My aunt, bless her, made sure to walk me right up to her. Look who I found being turned away at the door, she said loudly. Can you believe someone forgot to put his name on the guest list after he arranged everything? My stepmom's smile was so stiff, it looked like it might crack her foundation. Oh, what a terrible oversight. So glad you could make it. Wouldn't have missed it for the world, I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Nice necklace, by the way. Reminds me of the one I saw when my credit card statement showed a charge at Tiffany's last Christmas. What a coincidence. She touched the diamond pendant nervously. Your father has excellent taste. Yes, in jewelry. Not so much in party guests, apparently. I turned away before she could respond and headed for the bar. If I was going to get through this evening, I needed a soda. Maybe with a little umbrella in it, just to mark the occasion. What's really going on? My aunt whispered as we walked through the crowd. 6 years of financial abuse followed by the ultimate slap in the face, I said under my breath. I've sent them almost $250,000, and they tried to keep me out of a party I literally paid for. Her eyes widened. $250,000. Yes, I've got all the receipts. Every transfer, every text, every broken promise to pay it back when things stabilize. Jesus Christ, she breathed. And tonight? Just the icing on the cake. They didn't think I'd actually show up. Thought they could take the money and have their perfect party without the inconvenience of my presence. She squeezed my arm. What are you going to do? I smiled grimly. I'm going to enjoy the party I paid for. Stay close to me, she said. I've got your back. For the next hour, I circulated through the party, calm and composed on the outside while my mind was racing. Every time someone said, amazing party, or your dad must be so happy, I just smiled and replied with gems like, he should be, cost enough to put a down payment on a house, or nothing but the best for dad, that's my motto, and his apparently when it's on my dime. I caught my aunt talking intensely with a couple other relatives, occasionally looking my way. Word was spreading. My uncle caught my eye from across the room and raised his glass in silent solidarity. Then he deliberately turned his back on my dad. Small gestures. But they didn't go unnoticed. My phone buzzed with a text from my aunt. Told your uncles what happened. They're pissed. Uncle R wants details about the money. Also, your cousin is sitting with your brother to keep him from making a scene. Team U is assembling. I smiled at that. Team U. Maybe I wasn't as alone in this family as I thought. I noticed my dad watching me nervously from across the room, clearly waiting for me to cause a scene. My brother had stationed himself protectively near the DJ booth, as if I might try to hijack the music. If he only knew what I was actually planning. My stepmom kept trying to steer important guests away from me whenever I got close, which was honestly hilarious to watch. "Oh, you must see the photo display over here," she'd say loudly, practically dragging people away mid-conversation. I played it cool, biding my time. I knew exactly when my moment would come. I wasn't going to waste the chance to say my piece, not after flying 2,500 miles and spending 6 years being the family piggy bank. The DJ caught my eye and nodded slightly. The cake was being wheeled in. Showtime. Dinner was winding down. The cake was being prepared in the kitchen. According to the schedule I had literally planned, it was almost time for toasts. The DJ announced, "And now, some words from family and friends to celebrate our guest of honor." A few people spoke. Dad's bowling buddy told a story about their glory days. His sister shared a childhood memory. My stepmom gushed about what an amazing man he was, and how lucky she felt. Then, before my brother could grab the microphone as planned, my aunt stood up. "I believe my nephew has something to say," she announced, looking directly at me. After all, he made this whole evening possible. There was a smattering of applause as I walked to the front. Dad looked like he was about to have a heart attack. My stepmom was frantically whispering to my brother, who started to stand up but was yanked back down by my uncle. I took the microphone, smiled, and raised my glass. "I'd like to propose a toast to my father on his 65th birthday," I began smoothly. "Dad, our relationship has changed a lot over the years. I've been thinking about how to mark this occasion, and I realized the best gift I could give you is honesty." I paused, looking around the room. When Dad called me about this party, I was thrilled. I was happy to help plan it, happy to cover the entire $12,000 cost of the venue and catering, happy to fly across the country to be here. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people looked confused. What many of you might not know is that for the past 6 years, I've been helping Dad financially. It started with small things. His truck needed repairs, there were medical bills. That was no problem. I was glad to help the man who raised me. I pulled out my phone, but over time, the requests grew. The gratitude shrank. Dad and my stepmom began to expect regular financial support from me. I looked directly at Dad now. In total, over the past 6 years, I've given you $237,482. I have every transfer documented. Every text where you promised it was just until things settle down. Every email thanking me for the temporary help that somehow became permanent. The room was dead silent now. Despite all this, when I showed up tonight, after flying across the country, taking time off work, buying a new suit, I was told I wasn't on the guest list. I was told I wasn't real family. Just the ATM funding the lifestyle you see around you. I gestured to the elegant room. "So happy birthday, Dad. My gift to you is the truth. Everyone here now knows exactly who paid for this party. Everyone knows exactly how you treat your own son." I raised my glass higher. To clarity, to reality, and to finally being free of financial exploitation, disguised as family obligation. I took a sip and set down my glass. The silence was absolute. Then I turned to the room. "Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. The cake is excellent. I picked the flavor myself during the planning calls." I walked calmly toward the exit. As I passed my aunt, she squeezed my shoulder in silent support. My uncle gave me a solemn nod. Behind me, chaos erupted. My stepmom was on her feet, shouting that I was lying. My brother was trying to grab the microphone. Dad just sat there, staring at his plate. But I didn't look back. I walked out with my head high, the weight of 6 years finally off my shoulders. In the days that followed, the fallout was predictable. Dad's messages evolved from furious to desperate as the financial reality set in. Stepmom was suddenly re-evaluating their relationship, now that the money train had derailed. My brother had to deal with Dad's increasing panic about bills. "How could you do this to me? After everything I've done for you? This is a massive misunderstanding. Call me. The mortgage is due next week. I thought we had an understanding." Then, "Stepmom's talking about moving out. Is that what you wanted? I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. Please, son." I read each message but responded to none. 6 years of being manipulated and used had been more than enough. Family members I barely knew started reaching out. Some to criticize me for humiliating Dad, others to quietly admit they'd suspected something wasn't right for years. My cousin called. Look, I've got to ask. Was all that stuff you said true? Every single word, I said. Every dollar, every broken promise. Jesus, he muttered. I always wondered how Uncle was affording all that stuff on his pension, but I figured maybe he had investments or something. His only investment was me, I said. For what it's worth, he said, before hanging up. I think you got screwed over. Bad. My aunt, Dad's sister, left a voicemail. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I always knew something wasn't right with that woman. Your father was never like this before her. Call me if you need anything. I appreciated the support, but it came too late. Where were these people when Dad was draining my accounts for years? Why had no one questioned how a retired construction worker was suddenly living like he had a six-figure income? The most surprising call came from my uncle, Dad's brother, who I'd always thought didn't like me much. I saw what happened at the party, he said gruffly. Your old man was out of line. Thanks for backing me up in there, I said. The look on your stepmom's face when you dropped that number, priceless. Your dad should have never let it get to that point. No, he shouldn't have, I agreed. Your grandfather was a real piece of work, you know, my uncle continued. Used your dad as free labor in his business for years, promised him partnership, then sold the company without giving him a dime. Your dad swore he'd never be like that with his own kids. The irony wasn't lost on me. Guess some patterns are hard to break. Maybe, my uncle said, but you broke it. Good for you. I responded to none of Dad's increasingly desperate texts. Instead, I took the money I'd been setting aside for Dad's next inevitable emergency, a cool $10,000 that was earmarked for whatever crisis would surely arise, and booked a trip I'd been putting off for years. I didn't even bother flying back to Boston first, changed my return flight to Portland, and spent 2 weeks backpacking through national parks in the Pacific Northwest. No phone, no emails, no family drama, just me, nature, and the freedom of knowing that my finances were my own again. When I got back, tanned and more at peace than I'd been in years, there was a letter in my mailbox, handwritten from Dad. Son, I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did was wrong on every level. The party was stepmom's idea. She thought having you there would be awkward after you and I argued about the kitchen remodel. I should have stood up to her. I should have stood up for you. The truth is, I've been drowning for years. First in debt, then in lies to cover that debt. It was so easy to lean on you because you never said no. Never made me feel small for asking. And I took advantage of that in the worst way. Stepmom left last week, took what she could carry and cleared out our joint account. Your brother's furious with both of us. You for cutting off the money, me for not having a backup plan. He's moving in with friends next month. I put the house on the market. It's too much for me anyway, and I need to start paying you back. I know it will take the rest of my life to make things right financially, but I have to try. I miss who we used to be. I miss who I used to be before I became this person I don't recognize. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No expectations, no requests, just a dad who failed his son and hopes someday to make amends. Love always, Dad. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Maybe someday I'd be ready to talk to him again. Maybe I'd even be able to forgive him. But not today. Today, I was calling a financial advisor to set up a retirement account for myself. Today, I was finally putting myself first. People ask if I regret how things went down. I don't. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I helped because I genuinely wanted to. Because I remembered the dad who worked double shifts to buy me baseball equipment and drove me to college in our beat-up truck. But that man is gone, replaced by someone who saw me as nothing more than a convenient ATM, willing to exclude me from a celebration I paid for because my actual presence wasn't valuable to him, just my wallet. Sometimes the clearest way to show someone their behavior is to simply hold up a mirror. No sneaking around, no elaborate schemes. Just standing tall, looking them in the eye, and speaking your truth. And sometimes, the best birthday gift you can give is the gift of reality.